Hi everyone, welcome to the Navigant Credit Union Broadcast Center. I'm GoLocal News editor Kate Nagel. I'd like to kick off this Wednesday afternoon show with a familiar face, GoLocal columnist Bob Whitcomb. Thanks for coming in today.
You can't tell the plastic surgery?
It's Bob. He's here, and if he's here, we're talking national and local politics. Let's start with a story that GoLocal just broke pertaining to former press secretary Sean Spicer. His book tour now is supposed to be at BJ's Wholesale Club. That event's been canceled. They're very tight-lipped as to why.
What is that, threats of rioting or what?
Well, Barrington Books apparently is holding
strange.
one as well, and they said that they are committed to holding the event. So probably just a lot of speculation at this point.
I wonder why. I mean, obviously he's not particularly popular, even though he's from here. In fact, he's from Barrington.
He's from Barrington.
Frightening. Does he still live here, around here? Does he have a place here? Is he going to become a GoLocal weatherman?
He's been known to be seen in Newport, so
with the swells.
With his post-Trump era, he's on the book tour. Apparently, pre-sales of the books have been rather low.
I would think so. Yeah. Nobody remembers. I mean, that was a long time ago. You know, the Harold Wilson line. We keep repeating, a week is an eternity in politics.
Yes.
I mean,
this administration.
He's been out of office for more than a year, Spicer.
This administration, a day is an eternity.
No one remembers. No one remembers. It's like some advice I got from my old friend Truman Taylor. We used to do TV. He said the only thing they'll remember about you is maybe the color of your tie.
Now, would you go to hear what he has to say?
No. I would not go because he's a liar. I don't want to go. Apparently he's a nice guy. Personally, he's perfectly pleasant, all that, but he knowingly lied. I don't like that.
Well, do you think maybe you'd want to hear his explanation? He was doing his job for the
president? No,
president?
that's no excuse. I heard him on the radio giving his explanation. That's no excuse.
So we'll not see Bob at Barrington Books?
I'll be having dinner with him tonight, though, so asking him for a job.
Let's go from, let's stay with the Trump administration. Obviously, the big news that's all around this week is the tapes. The tapes.
Yeah, I mean, clearly Trump is paying off this woman, and, you know, I don't know where we go from here. I don't think it's that important. You know, the base that you would think would be offended by this, the evangelicals, they're his most strident supporters. So they don't seem to care about, you know, personal immorality. I think more the danger to him is more, this may be just the tip of an iceberg, a very large iceberg heading for the Titanic. Because, you know, Cohen's got a lot of other tapes, apparently. We're told they're just hours and hours and hours of tape.
What was Trump's reaction today? He said that the tapes are doctored?
It's too bad. Then he said, that's too bad. Yeah, he said they were doctored. Right. Yeah, they were doctored, right.
So
I think I think this is actually relatively minor, you know, payoff to the Playmate, right? What is a Playmate? I get them all mixed up.
I believe McDougal. This was not pertaining to Stormy Daniels.
This is a Playmate.
Yes, this was from years ago. Yeah. Because when it was about Stormy Daniels, the question was the timing and was it a campaign contribution?
That's right.
You know, I don't want to say it's an arrangement between two consenting adults, but it looks like a de facto business arrangement was executed.
Yeah, that's right.
And now
and the business of America's business, as my favorite president Calvin Coolidge noted.
But there's just the salacious quality, I think, that of just, you know, I'm sure news stations are just salivating over this.
I think Trump, like many Americans, has even been able to kill interest in sex. You know? It's, you know, I think what this suggests is, since Cohen was his fixer, Cohen was never a real lawyer. I think he was a member of the bar, but he's not a real practicing lawyer. He's a fixer. He's a, you know, payoffs people. I think this is just more sort of a shot, you know, across the bow, that other stuff may be coming along. I find this just idiotically insignificant, paying off some Playmate. I mean, it's almost comical.
As you said, it would be comical if it wasn't real.
If he weren't the president of the United States. But no, I don't think this is titillating. But, you know, it's sort of Daily Mail stuff. But it's not important. What is important is the other stuff that Cohen may or may not have. I expect he has a lot of stuff.
That is true. You say the Daily Mail-esque, but it certainly has saturated the more mainstream media as well. Let's talk a little bit news today. Trump said that he is pushing off having Vladimir Putin to the United States.
Yeah, that kind of surprised me. Did it surprise you?
2019. Yes and no.
I don't know. I was a little bit surprised by that. It would be pushed off that long. I actually thought he was going to go ahead and do it, you know, around Labor Day. They could be up there, you know, shagging golf balls on Labor Day weekend.
Well, you know, I'm sure the president really isn't one to listen to handlers that often, but if folks really got to him and said, this would be incredibly detrimental to the Republicans in the midterms, can you please wait till 2019?
And I see the latest poll, the polls come and go. He was up a bit because of the Republicans. Now he's down a bit in another poll that came out today. But it appears likely, far from a certainty, but likely the Democrats will take the House. If the Democrats take the House, then it's going to be
you think things are crazy now?
Yeah.
You think things are crazy
now? We'll have to have our weekly chat last about 4 days. You know, be bringing coffee and amphetamines to keep going, to keep up with this stuff.
If that's the case,
I'd say there's about 65-70% chance they'll take the House.
So you're slightly bullish on this.
Yeah,
Let's talk about who might be winning here in Rhode Island.
Yeah.
GoLocal reported today, Gina Raimondo reported her 50 days before the primary report, which had to include numbers since she began the re-election cycle, January 1st, 2015, over $7.7 million.
Unbelievable. I know, for a state that shouldn't even be a state. It's so small. It's amazing. And a lot of out-of-state money, of course.
So 6.8.
Of course, the state's so small, and a lot of money would have to come from out-of-state. It's like the tolls.
Yes,
you know?
I've seen a lot of commentary with regard to that. 6.8 to date. They expect 1.8 to be reported by the end of the calendar year.
This seems an extraordinary amount of money. The population of this little jurisdiction is about 1.1 million. So it seems like it's unbelievable. So I assume she's just going to inundate the airwaves starting about probably Labor Day. Or no, before Labor Day, but she does have an opponent who I think will give her a pretty good run. I think you and I have talked about this. Matt Brown, he's a good campaigner. He's very charming, bright. I think she'll win, and I think she'll win the general election, even though she's not, you know, a public persona is not very exciting. But Mayor Fung isn't exactly a thriller either.
So he
needs to get his opinions out there, his public policy prescriptions, so that people like me can, you know, write about them. I don't have a clear handle other than he apparently dislikes the governor, which is about what you'd expect. But what would he do? He seems to have been a competent mayor of Cranston by, you know, kind of trudging along. But what are the big changes?
Well, you know, the things that he parses out are, you know, cutting taxes,
well, they
being
all
business
say
friendly.
that. Yeah, I mean, Gina Raimondo says she can be business friendly too. She's certainly been friendly to some businesses, very friendly. You know?
Now, they had an interesting release from the Raimondo camp. They said that both Fung and Brown's economic plans would cause Rhode Island to lose jobs. It kind of seems funny to attack them both at the same.
I know.
It's like boom, boom.
I know. I'm gonna have to run that through a Cray supercomputer. I don't get that. I noticed that too. Makes sense. You got the right wing, the left wing guy. I don't know. Yeah.
Discuss.
I don't, yeah. Discuss. Right. Yeah. Like those essay tests we had in school. Yeah. Discuss. Yeah.
Well, let's be honest. I mean, we saw at the beginning she was really going after Fung, and we've seen in recent weeks where she's had to take on Matt Brown, and this release she decided to take them both on at once.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's just, Matt's trying to pull her to the left, or you know, but I don't think she's going to go that far. I mean, the governor is actually an old-fashioned Democrat. She's sort of a Truman Democrat, something like that, and Matt is a progressive, whatever that means. You know, he's more of a state role and everything, and she's a little leery of that, partly because she's been in business, and she kind of, she's a self-made person, right? Kind of got herself into fancy colleges, made a lot of money in venture capital, and so her view of business is quite different than his.
So it is interesting, though, moving forward, we'll see what happens on the fundraising front, because one of the things that GoLocal had written about, and as you'd seen, the Sackler money from Purdue Farm.
Oh, yeah, right, Purdue Farm. Yeah, this is a fascinating thing because, there really was a scandal. The Sackler outfit, they own Purdue family, and then they put their names on everything, including in various well-known educational institutions. I think maybe even a couple in the little state of Rhode Island. I'm not sure. I'll check that out.
GoLocal did write about the die-in up at Sackler at Harvard just that weekend because, again, they were putting that OxyContin.
That's right.
Stigma.
Harvard, of course, Harvard is so poor. They have to get it, where they can find it. They have to take it. It's hard to kind of, tack along a $35 billion down.
Okay, we'll leave Harvard be. I mean, isn't it an issue?
They've done enough damage.
Isn't it enough?
But no, it's a great issue. I think it's a minor issue. I mean, they're handing out money to everybody. It's kind of like the issue with Sheldon Whitehouse having some drug company stock. Well, every union pension fund's got drug company stock. You know, every 401k, IRA, they've got, you know, in some of these companies have been peddling bad drugs, but you just can't know everything, you know. I don't know.
Should she return the money?
Yeah, and so far as Purdue and stuff, you know, the majority of the medical trade went along with this. You know, they were prescribing this stuff like Hershey bars for what, 10 or 12 years. And they just go, oh yeah, opiates. Gee, I didn't know they were addictive. They were basically saying that. They said, no, if you take this according to our directions, if you follow the prescriptions with Teutonic rigor, you won't get addicted, which is ridiculous.
But should the governor return this money, Bob?
I think she should be. She doesn't need it. That's why. That's a very good reason. She certainly does not need the money. It would probably be a good PR move for her.
But we've talked about that. Do you think it sets perhaps that chilling effect if donors, you know, see a politician having to be held to the court of public opinion?
Well, I think it depends. I think the Sacklers and Purdue Pharma has such a terrible reputation. I don't think that would hurt her. It's like taking money from IG Farben or something at this point in World War II. You know, the horrible German conglomerate. I suspect it wouldn't hurt her. But if she refuses money from, you know, Merck or Pfizer, that would be a problem.
That would be a different issue. So we went from national to state. Let's go local.
Also,
here.
I think Purdue Pharma is quite closely held, too. It's more closely held than Merck and Pfizer and stuff, so that changes the calculus.
So let's get closer to Providence here, an issue that's happening this week, UNAP and Lifespan.
Oh, boy.
The strike.
What a mess, yeah. And I think one thing that can't be emphasized enough, the nurses hate management at Lifespan. They don't like, and it goes way back because so many of the what do you call it, the C-suite, you know, the senior executives at Lifespan were paying themselves so much money that produced, I think, a permanent resentment amongst the union members. I think a lot of it goes back to that, and that was that's sort of the explosion of salaries and perks of the people running Lifespan, even as they were sort of squeezing some of the workforce. And I think this is terrible resentment. Still, I think some members, senior management, are trying to bridge that, but it's very, very difficult. We should also talk about Memorial Hospital, which I don't think the state anticipated enough the effect of closing Memorial Hospital on the ERs, because unfortunately in America, the ER is the primary care physician for too many people without regular insurance. And I think they should have anticipated that more, maybe even come in and found some way of keeping the Memorial Hospital ER open. And most people still don't know that you can go to, you know, minute clinics and CVS's. There are a lot of urgent care places around. Of course, you have to pay some money. A lot of people show up at the ER. They're charged a $2,000 bill. They don't have the money, and the hospitals just write it off.
So something that could be potentially overshadowing the hospital, the Fane Tower. Now, GoLocal's questioning of the council president's role with a lobbyist for the Rhode Island Association.
I don't know why he won't take a stand on that.
Of realtors.
I don't get it. Has he changed his mind?
He has not taken a position on it, and the questions that we've asked about seeking an advisory opinion from the Ethics Commission as to whether or not his role as city council president is in concert with his lobbyist.
That's ridiculous. Well, still, you know, he should give his opinion about this. Eisenhower had a great line, I think it was Eisenhower, when in command, command. And he should have an informed opinion. There's been a tremendous amount of information about this tower, and he said he's for it or against it. And of course, the full city council is going to vote on this thing in September, I think.
We shall see. We
shall see. So I wish he would give his opinion. And it doesn't seem to be a lot to ask at this point. He's a very nice man. I've met him, in fact, in these very studios. And, you know, we sat and had a couple of drinks in the back and had a great time. But,
well, he seems a little more focused on his opinion of GoLocal than his opinion of the Fane Tower.
I think that's it's an unfortunate side road through the jungle.
Speaking of jungle, you've got notes here as to what we're going to go through the weeds through this weekend.
Yeah, I'm going to talk about the beetle, the American burying beetle, which is going to stay on the endangered species list. I'm glad, because it removes corpses from the woods. It eats corpses. It was the Trump administration, which, as far as I can tell, has no interest in the environment, except the environment of various golf clubs. They were going to take it off the list. It's endangered.
So God save the beetle.
You know, keep the woods cleaned up. And I also talk about, I have a sort of opinion, there should be actually fewer parking spaces in cities. Fill up parking lots like the one right across the street with buildings. more housing, which brings down the cost of housing, and more public transportation. I think this obsession with parking spaces is catastrophic.
We have a bit of a surface lot industrial complex
We
here.
do, yeah, we do. And not just in Providence. I can't, in Providence, actually, for a mid-sized city like they're probably fewer than most places, the bulk of downtown Providence is still intact. Compared to Worcester, and a lot of it looks like the steppes of Kazakhstan or something.
Well, there is that surface lot down in Thames that just this week the Commerce Corporation gave the approval for a hotel there.
Yeah.
Saw a lot of pushback. I saw a lot of pushback down
Yeah.
in Newport that they don't want it. It didn't seem to get that sort of reaction here, but it was a surface lot.
Yeah, no, it's a good. Do I have time for another?
One more.
A couple. Okay, let me see. What did I say? Monetize.
Monetized lobster?
No, not that actually. Yeah, well, it's kind of a silly thing, but as you know, a pair of guys, cousins from Maine, have this lobster company called Cousins Lobster, and they're going around the country. They're setting up restaurants. We've got these food trucks. Why not do it with cohogs? That'd be great.
Do the model, the cohog state.
You got a model, right?
Okay.
That's economic development.
Monetize the cohogs.
Yeah, that's right.
Well, I appreciate your coming in as you always do, Bob. I'll let you around the corner.
See you soon.
Speaking of cohogs, we're going to have a little more of an ocean-focused segment next. Don't go anywhere. Nice. Hi everyone, welcome back to the Navigate Credit Union Broadcast Center. I'm GoLocal News editor Kate Nagel. I'd like to welcome my next guest, Alyssa Peterson with See Ahead. Thank you for coming in today.
Hi, thanks for having me, Kate.
I appreciate it. Put out some news today about everything that's been happening with See Ahead. Now this is the intersection of oceans, innovation, and sustainability, blue tech.
Yes.
So before we go into where See Ahead's been all around the world lately, talk with us about the beginnings of See Ahead here, focused in Providence, but looking to have a worldwide impact.
That's great, thank you. So See Ahead has been, in the minds of its founders for a number of years, and we came together in January. So it's myself, Mark Wong, who was the Economic Development Director of Providence previous to this, and Jason Kelly, who's one of the principals of Moran Ship Agency. And we came together in January and incorporated in May, and so we've really been kicking it off since then.
And so talk about this, the intersection of oceans, innovation, and sustainability. I mean, blue tech,
Yes.
everyone hears about, the green economy. This is
Yes,
the blue economy. Are there parallels there, this sort of environmental focus and bringing businesses and urban areas in to, again, keep the health of the oceans?
Absolutely. So we view blue tech like clean tech was 20 years ago. So 20 years ago, nobody had heard of clean tech. The price of solar panels was, 100 times what it is today, and the space was really starved for capital. And so what we are looking at is the blue tech space, taking innovations, say, in software for managing aquaculture farms, or in new sensor and data analytics technology that can help us better understand flooding on a more detailed scale than is currently available for coastal resiliency. So all of those kinds of technologies today, they don't have an investor base, a network base with which to support entrepreneurs that are coming out of the universities, that are coming out of larger businesses, and they are therefore not receiving the help that they need to be successful and be impactful.
So based here in Providence, and again, you've been around the world lately with having an impact. I mean, does this have a potential, Blue Tech here being where it is in Rhode Island with See Ahead just launching, for a major growth expansion?
Yeah, so we see Southern New England as the heart of this new industry, basically. So Southern New England has what we would argue is the highest density of blue tech assets and capabilities of anywhere in the world, between our university system spanning, when we think about Southern New England, we think basically, from Boston all the way out to Woods Hole, down through all of Rhode Island into southeastern Connecticut. And in that space, you've got universities, URI, UMass Dartmouth, MIT, Woods Hole, and then you've got Brown, and you've also then have the government, the Naval Undersea Warfare Center, the Coast Guard R&D, and you have a really strong base of industry players as well. The offshore wind industry is going to be headquartered in this region, right? Because you have, 15 gigawatts potential of offshore wind off the northeastern coast of the U.S.
And we often have Deepwater in here to talk about where they've been and where they're going. Speaking of going, the recent newsletter from See Ahead, Halifax, Brussels, and Athens. So let's talk about this now worldwide reach, as you said, Southern New England really being sort of the center, but branching out and what the discussions have been around the world. Let's start up north in Canada.
Great. So I went to Halifax at the beginning of June, and I was there for the opening of their Cove Center, which is very similar to what we're looking to achieve with See Ahead, in that it's a center for new blue tech related companies and blue economy companies, and they have a space within that facility for startups who are looking to grow their businesses, but they also house larger companies in that space as well, and they have prototyping and that kind of thing. So it was really exciting to go there, see what they're doing, and think about how the parallels are there for for us, especially given they're only an hour flight away from Boston. So
they're close. So here representing Rhode Island, who else was there? All around the world?
Yeah, so there were people there from England. There's a good group from New England that came with us. We had 2 or 3 startups, a couple of established companies that were also in the New England contingent that was brought up by the Consulate of Canada. And then, if we move to Brussels, Mark went out to Brussels earlier this summer to go to a Blue Tech Invest event, and that was an event thrown by the EU in order to, gather investor support for their burgeoning blue economy as well. So they had a lot of startups pitching, and they brought investors in. So we were also represented for that.
And then Athens.
Athens was one of the largest shipping conferences in the world, and so our partner Jason Kelly went for that event, and he noticed while he was there quite a lot of talk about sustainability and all of the new regulations and policies that are going into place in the shipping industry. So one of the things that is important for understanding why now for this industry is understanding that there's been a large, the shipping industry and the ports in general have escaped the sort of regulatory policies that have gone on in terms of emissions for the land-based transportation, and those things are just starting to come in. So ports and shipping are being regulated on a number of fronts, whether it's air emissions, carbon dioxide, noise, if you're talking also about the invasive species that come in ballast water. So there's a lot of things that they're dealing with all at the same time, and so they have a lot of need for innovation.
So again, so it's kind of, as you said, this has been years in the works, but you're really off to the races since launching this year. What's next?
So what's next? We are currently working with a number of startups to help them to grow their businesses and connecting them with sources of capital. We are also working on putting together our own investment vehicles so that we can also do investments in companies, and so we're working on putting that together. We're currently looking at and growing our corporate partnerships. Most of these, if you look around the world and the country, most of the innovation centers that support small businesses are supported by corporations which are interested in understanding what's coming around the corner. What are the kinds of innovations that they should either know about and therefore look to incorporate, or what should they be concerned about and therefore be prepared for. And so we are looking at and talking to a lot of corporate partners in order to help generate interest and excitement in this field.
So I have a feeling we might be seeing some announcements from See Ahead, maybe perhaps moving forward, as you can bring some more corporations under your wings.
I certainly hope so.
Well, I appreciate your taking the time to come in. We'll provide some more links as provided by See Ahead. Again, having just launched here in Providence, and you have operations up in Boston, yes?
Yes, so we're here about 3/4 of the time, and we're up in Boston about 1/4 of the time.
Okay, Providence is winning. We like it. We like to see, again, emerging businesses, and again, now with the blue tech industry, as you said, the potential for Southern New England really to be the leader worldwide. Yeah. Wanted folks to get a little more information on See Ahead. So, yeah. Alyssa Peterson, I appreciate you taking the time to come in today.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back here in the Navigant Credit Union Broadcast Center. Hi everyone, welcome back to the Navigant Credit Union Broadcast Center. I'm GoLocal News editor Kate Nagel. Thanks for joining us for the 4 o'clock show. Kicked off with GoLocal columnist Bob Whitcomb, talking as we usually do about all things national and local politics. Would also like to thank Alyssa Peterson with See Ahead. Again, this is an emerging leader in the blue tech economy based here in Providence. But since starting here in 2018, they've been all over the world, from Halifax to Brussels to Athens. Again, looking at the intersection of oceans, innovation, and sustainability. Appreciate her taking the time to come in. We'll be back in the studio tomorrow with more GoLocal Live, but in the meantime, check out GoLocalProv.com. Latest story, Sean Spicer, Rhode Island native, former press secretary for Donald Trump. His book tour coming to Rhode Island, the BJ's Wholesale event in Seekonk was canceled. It's still taking place here at Barrington Books. You can read more about that on GoLocal, and of course, keep watching us on Facebook as well. We look forward to seeing you back here tomorrow on Thursday, but in the meantime, have a great Wednesday night. I'm GoLocal News editor Kate Nagel.